Okay, so I wanted to chat about good practices to have on safari, and I think especially during these times when we're all starting to think about sort of traveling now again, or maybe just almost reinvent ourselves, from a traveling or safari point of view. I mean, I think we've had in the office here we've had numerous discussions on how we're going to change the way that we travel. I think I said it before in the previous webinar, and also in the recent Q&A video that Jerry and I did. But like for myself, there's a lot of like good practices that I want to bring back into it. One of the things is definitely to make the most of every single moment. I think the last few months have particularly taught us that you're never guaranteed of traveling anymore. Something can happen, and then all of a sudden you can't travel for whatever reason. So I think for me personally, it's a thing of getting into good habits and really sort of maximizing the travel opportunities, but also documenting that, and from a content point of view, to just try and create some new content, some different content. And I think I said it last time as well. I think there's a lot of people traveling at the moment on safari, leading safaris, and they're just doing the same thing over and over again. And I really do feel that they're missing a trick by doing that. So let's go through some of the things that I feel are good practices that I think will really help you maximize your safari and your photographic opportunities. Okay, so I think learning about a destination before the safari, I think, is a really big thing. I think a lot of the times we almost rely so heavily on the guide, and like the local guide of that particular area. Now, 100%, I totally agree. It is the guide's responsibility to give you that knowledge about the destination. But quite often a safari can be so sort of jam packed that when you're going for like a week or 10 days, there's often not enough time to get everything in. You need to sort of come back time and time again to really get a sort of broader experience, if that makes sense. But if you really do your research on the destination, I really think it adds a lot of value for you, and it also just makes the experience, will make it better for you personally. I find like a lot of the places that I've just recently gone for the first time, if I think back on India, being able to read about the rich history in some of those parks, it opens a whole sort of door for you, and it changes your thinking process before you get, like when you get to that destination, that you then have that knowledge. You don't want to sort of return home and then then find out all these amazing things about a particular place. So I think learning about a destination before the safari, I think, is vitally important. All right, so these are some of the things that I've highlighted in sort of in this particular order. And like I said, the first thing is interesting is like the history about the area. How long has it been a national park, and what was it before it became a national park or a private game reserve? If you look at South Africa, big parts of that was farmland, and it's also interesting how they've now got like the local communities involved in those particular reserves or national parks. It might be from a conservation point of view. A lot of those people are now involved in like anti-poaching and things, or they might be employed by the lodges in some way or another. So I think that's vitally important just to understand the history of the area. And then also a little bit more about the reserve or the parks that you're going to. The size of the parks, I think, is something to consider. Are you going to a smaller private game reserve, or is it a bigger park? And what does the area around it look like? Is it sort of mostly open plains? Are there some rocky areas, some mountainous areas in there? Are there like big lakes, river systems? And I think also, like we've got the luxury of having our phones with us on a daily basis. If you just go onto Instagram and you search for the hashtags for that particular destination. If let's take India for example. Before I went, I had a look at Banhavgarh and Pench and Kana. And by looking at the photos, on Instagram, you get a fair idea of what is possible from a photographic point of view. Okay, so I think that is something to look at now. Like I said, we've got social media at our fingertips. I think that will also give you an idea of kind of what the environment looks like, and also then that will give you an idea of the type of images that are possible. Okay, and then also what species could be found in the area. Are you looking? Is it an area that's rich for like cheetahs or leopard or lions or whatever it may be? What is that area really known for? If you think of a place like Amboseli, immediately like elephants jump to mind, right? Elephants, Kilimanjaro, and those marshlands, maybe sort of big stormy skies. So that I think it helps you also creatively from a photographic point of view, just to get those creative juices flowing for you. I think that will also, all of these factors taken into consideration will also help you choose what camera gear you're going to take with you on safari. I think a lot of the time we take the usual stock standard stuff, but we also then end up with quite a lot of gear on safari. And who knows, with the new travel sort of restrictions that are happening pretty soon, who knows how many lenses or how much camera gear you can actually take with you on safari. So I think that's going to be quite interesting. But I think all of these factors, taking them into consideration, will definitely help you from a photographic point of view. This is a photo in the Masai Mara. So just to again get those creative juices flowing, look at photos that you see on Instagram, on the websites even, and also speak to people who have been to these places. Look at some of their photos, and really go from there. So these are some of the photos that I actually pulled off my Instagram, and I think it gives you a pretty good idea. So the one on the left is Tarangire, and then at the top right, Amboseli, and then at the bottom right, Masai Mara. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I really think Instagram nowadays is really maybe one of our best tools that we possibly have available. Okay, connect with your guide or company before the safari starts. Now, I cannot sort of tell you exactly just how important this is because, I mean, let's be honest, there are a lot of photographic companies starting up nowadays. There's a lot of travel companies. And, how do you choose one from the other? And at the end of the day, it comes down to personal preference. I mean, there are really, really good safari companies. There's, it comes down to personal preference. They, even with wildlife, I mean, we always say you might not necessarily want to travel with me. You'd rather go with Mike or with Jerry or with Andrew, whoever it may be. And it's very much a personal preference kind of thing. It's nothing sort of taken personally from it, but that's just the way us as people are. So I would strongly encourage that if you're thinking of going on a safari or traveling with a particular company or a particular guide, get onto Zoom or Skype. There's so many of these things available to us, especially now, that there really are no excuses from a company and a guide point of view. There are no excuses not to connect with people online. If your guide, for example, is not eager to get on a Skype or a Zoom with you, then you got to start asking some questions. Whether these are the people that you want to travel with. And also you might want something different. Everyone wants something different from a safari. You want someone that's maybe a little bit quieter, and not as loud or as busy as maybe as someone like a Jerry, for example. He a lot of people might think he's very busy, but a lot of people also love being with him. So again, I think you got to, even if you have a Zoom call with each person in the particular team, I'm pretty sure you'll find that right person that you want to travel with. Okay, so connect with your guide or company before the safari starts. I think also like another question that can be added to this is, find out if you're speaking to a particular guide, find out what does the company have in place from a travel point of view and from a support systems point of view, because there's a lot of guys that that sell safaris and it's a one-man show. But ask yourself, what happens if something goes wrong from a travel point of view? What happens when you get to the airport in Mana Pools, for example, and your plane is not there, and there's no signal, and your guy doesn't have a sat phone with him? What happens? What is the point of contact? So I mean, we're quite lucky here. I mean, we super spoiled as guides, and I mean we're all male guides at the moment. So we're super spoiled to have the ladies in the office that they basically take care of all of the logistics, all the flights, all the airport transfers, all of that. They take care of for us. So if something happens, if something had to go wrong, we've literally got one phone call to make. Depending on if it's a private guided trip or a scheduled safari, that'll determine who we phone. But that just makes it so much easier. And also during these times now, from sort of a COVID protocol point of view, we've got a team now that not just sort of see you through your safari side, but also have done their research from a COVID compliance point of view, what you need, where you can get your testing done, and the same thing then on your way back, what you require for you to get home. I think that's very, very important. Okay, so being able to then chat to your guide and company that you're traveling with, don't feel scared to tell them exactly the kind of experience that you want. Don't try and think that you sound too needy or too bossy. All of that information helps your guide and the company plan the safari that's suited to you. Okay. And again, if you're very specific, a place like this particular scene, there's not many places where you can get something like this. This is in the Serengeti, at the Kopi is the Eastern Serengeti. So if you want something specific like this, that's going to be your place to go. Northern Serengeti, even like Eastern Serengeti as well. Beautiful rocky outcrops, and that's where you're going to photograph those lines on the rock. You're not going to go to maybe like a Madikwe or a Sabi Sands, for example. Okay, so put wildlife ahead of your images, and I think this is quite a big one for me, and it comes down to like some of the stories I've heard from clients and even some other friends in the industry with wildlife photographers getting a bit of a bad reputation for pushing wildlife. And even like sometimes chasing wildlife out of a thicket to be able to get a particular photograph. And I think once you get to that point, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons totally. And so I would say putting wildlife ahead of your own images, and just being ethical in your approach. Ethical in the way you view the wildlife, but yet at the same time also bearing in mind that there is that point where conservation and tourism have to kind of meet. You can't. There's some people that go way to the sort of left-hand side and say, as soon as you get there with the vehicle, then you disturb the animal or you interfere with their behavior. And as much as that is true in some way, there has to be a point where you need to make room for tourism. Without tourism, at the moment, there's so many lodges and so many parks suffering because people can't get to those places. So they need tourism to be able to sustain that environment. As soon as people go out of it, then those animals are going to be poached and they're going to be no longer. So, but it can still be done in an ethical way. If an animal really gives you an aggressive sign or starts running away from the vehicle, then you're starting to have like extreme negative impact on their behavior. And it really is not worth going through that effort of disturbing an animal. It's if you think, I'm trying to think back, like a couple of years ago we had a case where there was a vehicle that was parked with us in a leopard sighting, and this guy ended up chasing. This leopard was in a thick bush, and this guy ended up driving his vehicle into the bush to try and get this leopard out, just so his guests could get a photograph. And I mean, we saw a glimpse of the leopard in front of our vehicle. We maybe got 1 or 2 shots. I don't think anyone in the group actually used those photos because it just left extreme like sour taste in our mouth. And I think that's also an important thing to remember is the sort of emotional impact that a sighting has on your images as well. Like when you look back at those images, all those sort of emotions will come back. Okay, limit expectations and maximize your experience. And I think this is also another big one. You know, I think there's a lot of places that we travel to, and often for like to view something in particular. You know, if you think of the migration, you know, to go and see river crossings, or if you go to monopools to get a particular elephant on his hind legs, you know, reaching up the top of these canopies, or if you go to Serengeti, that Nduti area, to have the carving, the baby wildebeest around. But you know, I think we end up putting so much pressure on ourselves from a photographic point of view that we lose a bit of that sort of enjoyment factor. And I've always had, you know, the philosophy that if you take your time in the field, if you put the hard work in, if you spend many hours in the field looking for something, even if it's quiet, eventually nature will reward you with something massive. And yeah, I mean, you do get a few quiet days in safari, but generally, you know, if you look at our average safaris are minimum 6 nights up to sort of 10, 12, 13 nights, you really are maximizing your chances of seeing something amazing. And, you know, by doing that and also maximizing your time out in the field, going out early in the morning, staying out till late, you maximize your experience so you get your best experience that you possibly can. And, you know, eventually, like, your expectations will also, hopefully they would be satisfied by then, if that makes sense. But I think, yeah, we all fall in that trap, us included, as guides. You know, you've got these massive expectations from, if we take a place that we go back to year after year, like the Masai Mara, you almost want to relive that same experience that you had the year before each and every single time that you go. And, you know, that can be quite a dangerous trap that you could fall into. This, for me, I actually just discovered this photo again the other day. Yeah, I think it was last week, Wednesday or Thursday. And it was just a moment in the Serengeti that I absolutely loved. And I don't think we do enough of this. You know, it's that we were stopping for a lunch. We had a packed lunch with us. And we said to everyone, you know, just find a sort of quiet spot after your lunch and just absorb the moment. You know, just take it all in, because during that heat of the day, we knew that a lot of the predators were going to be sleeping. Photographically, it's probably not great. So instead of, you know, racing around trying to find stuff at midday, just sort of sit back and, you know, even if it's for half an hour or 45 minutes, just don't say anything. Just take it in and listen. And it was absolutely beautiful. It was actually one of my favorite parts. And a lot of the guests commented that it was the most amazing thing. Because if you think about it, how many places nowadays can you go and sit for half an hour or 40 minutes and not hear anything? Not hear anything. You can literally hear yourself think. It is incredible. It's a super, super special experience. And I think it's something that I'm definitely going to encourage people to do more of. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly see if there's some questions over here. Okay, Tim Allen says, research weather and climate too will help you be prepared and with packing. 100%. That's a great comment there. It's you know, some places can be harder to pack than others. If you think about, you know, the Serengeti or the Masai Mara even is a good example, because it can get quite hot during the day, but then at night it cools down quite a bit, and then you've got the option or the chances of rain maybe in the evenings. So you generally need to pack a bit more. I was just thinking the other day, I've got almost a bit of a, not a nightmare, but next year I'm doing gorillas, and then onto that into Amboseli, and then northern Serengeti into the Mara. So it's quite an interesting packing list that's going to be, because obviously like with the hiking boots and certain gear that you need for the gorillas, it's going to make um, packing a little bit easier. But hopefully, by the time I get to the Mara, Mary will work her magic and do a bit of washing and get it all ready for me. Okay, if you guys have any questions, feel free to shout before we move on to the next part. I'll just give it a minute or so and see if there's any questions. Okay, let's move on. Control your bush FOMO, and this is something that I love. I'm one of the biggest FOMO people that you could possibly meet, and FOMO is our fear of missing out. And I actually think all of our guides at Wild have got serious FOMO. Like for me, if I'm not one of the first vehicles on safari in the mornings, I start getting a bit itchy. I need to get out there. I feel like I'm missing out on something. But you've got to control this, especially if there are multiple vehicles out. And I mean, we often discuss this when we've got a group, especially in the Mara, we've got 4 vehicles for 12 people, right? So we try as much as we possibly can so that all the vehicles can see the same things, but we're also not going to drive behind each other in a straight line. You try and cover as big an area as you possibly can. And the chances are that some people might get a sighting that you don't. And as sad as it is sometimes, it might be something really quick, like a glimpse of a leopard, or it might be a lion taking down a young wildebeest, or a croc taking a wildebeest, whatever it may be. You can't you can't be everywhere all the time, and I think that is probably one of the hardest things when you go to some of these places that offer incredible sightings. Is you always wonder in the back of your mind, what am I missing? And I think it's always going to be there with us. I think that's part of going on safari. You're always trying to maximize sightings, and are you doing the right thing by staying with a particular sighting? My advice would be is, if you find something, stick with it. Show a bit of patience. Again, like I mentioned, if you have the patience and spend time with the animal, the more time you spend with an animal, the better your chances of seeing something happening. Okay, I think a lot of the times and we see it quite a lot. People will spend 4 or 5 minutes with the animal and then move on. Chances then of seeing them doing something is very, very slim. So control that bush FOMO, and I suppose also trust your guide's instinct when it comes to that. This is quite a big one for me. Is be vigilant of your surroundings, especially in camps with no fences. You can see this was in the Timbavati. There was actually a small fence around camp, so we weren't completely exposed here. But I think a lot of the time we get a little bit complacent and almost, I don't know if uneducated is the right word, but almost blasé in a way, because we feel that these animals are coming into the camp and it should be fine. You can walk right past them. I remember working in Zambia quite a few years ago, and we'd often have people, and they would walk with earphones through camp during the day. And I mean, we would have elephants, there would be hippos, there'd be lions, there'd be anything, buffaloes, and you've got to be so vigilant. You can't, if you're looking to exercise when you're in one of these places, you're in the wrong place, because you can't run around with earphones on and stuff in a camp like that. Some of the camps, yes, that have a fence around them, some of them have got gyms now with a treadmill or a bike or something where you can do exercise. But otherwise, you got to be so vigilant, especially at night as well. Make sure that you don't walk by yourself when you're going back to the rooms. and also carry a torch with you. I think that is super, super important. Not just for the big obvious animals, but even something small like a scorpion or a snake that could be on the pathway that you might not see. That can cause just as much damage as some of those bigger animals. Okay, so be vigilant when you're around camps with no fences. I'm going to show you a video here. This is from Mana Pools. Sorry, not Mana Pools. This is Somalisa in Wangi. So these elephants would come through camp every day to feed on these little pods. So you'll see them now. Often they hit the roof. The roof is all canvas, so they'll hit that roof to get those little pods on there. And the last thing you want to do is walk on that deck right past him. Now you can actually see he's broken some of it there. See how that pole has fallen down?
Something tells me it's not going to be a once-off event.
So by staying in the lodge here, you're nice and safe. You've got a bit of a barrier. Don't go walking past them. Even if you've got that raised deck to your advantage, don't go walking past it, because that animal just gets a fright. As relaxed as he is with your presence, he just gets a bit of a fright, turns around, and all of a sudden you're in trouble. Okay, so I think that's something very important. I see there's a question that's come through here. Helena says, you just gave me a fright. What happens if I'm a wild-eye trip and the majority of the guests want to sleep in or not get out first thing in the morning? Or do you set the expectations ahead of time that it's a 6 a.m. you're on the truck? Helena, 100%. So if it's on a photographic safari where one of us are hosting, I think we got to set the precedent. So we will discuss with our local guides what they would recommend. I would always, as a rule of thumb, wherever I can, like to leave sort of 15, 20 minutes, even a half an hour before first light. So, I know like places in the Masai Mara, it's not permitted. You can only leave like 6:15. But in other destinations, I think it also depends very much on time of the year as well. If you're going on safari in the winter, you've got a sort of a longer period where your animals are active. They can be active midday even, and sort of early afternoon. You don't want to go on safari in the winter and leave at 5 o'clock in the morning. You're going to freeze and not be able to pick your camera up. Okay, but I'm speaking summer now, like this time of the year, 100%. Like for us now, so I usually get up in the mornings now around about sort of 4:30. The birds start calling then. It's starting to get light. So if I had to go on safari now in South Africa, I would leave about between 4:30 and 4:45 in the morning and really make the most of it. You know what? You can always, when you come back on safari after brunch, you can always have an afternoon siesta then, and then head out a little bit later in the afternoon. But I love those early mornings. I really think it's the best possible time to go out. So yeah, 100%. If you're on a guided trip with us, we will set the precedent, and I don't think any of our guides will let you sleep late. Unfortunately, it's not a sleeping safari. Okay, I'm going to show you guys another little clip here, and this was in Mana Pools. Now this is actually our breakfast table. This was a hippo that he became quite a regular visitor. And this particular day was an elephant coming through here as well. So, I mean, this is it's spectacular to witness, incredible to be a part of, but you just gotta be vigilant. So you can see there's a lot of leaves that sort of fall around from a lot of these trichelia trees, and the animals that becomes a big attraction for them. Also, the river. If you look at the screen, if I show it to you here, the river is just sort of on this side. So a lot of these animals are making their way to the water. Like people often ask, what do you do in this particular situation? Do you sit still? Do you move away? And I think the hardest thing is there is no right answer for that. Each time is totally different. It depends on the animal's mood, and it depends how many people you are. It depends, what sort of escape routes you possibly have. But I would say, if you're here in this sort of situation by yourself, make sure there is some sort of obstacle between you and the animal. Even if it's just a table like that, make sure there's a bit of an obstacle, a log, a termite mound, whatever it may be, a tree. And if you in your tent, obviously in your room, rather stay in your room unless there's a guide to accompany you. Okay, don't get out of your tent when there's animals outside there and start walking towards the dining room or the lounge. Rather stay in your room. Now, if those animals don't move away, your guide, either your wildlife guide or your local guide, will realize that you're not there, and we will then come looking for you. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Yeah, creating friendships on safari, and don't be a grumpy guy like me. There, it was just a joke, by the way. It's I'm not that grumpy at all when I'm on safari. I can promise you that. But create friendships on safari. I think that is something that we should all sort of go with that mindset of doing. And I really do feel that some of the best friendships are created on safari because you've got sort of like-minded people from different walks of life, with different stories. And for some reason, I think just being on safari, being in nature, I think it just molds incredible relationships. And that combined with the fact that often you are in a vehicle together for a minimum of 6 to 8 hours, then you might be having sort of meals together as well. So you're probably spending a good sort of 10 hours a day in each other's company. So I think naturally those relationships are going to build. And just for me personally, I've been so fortunate to be able to make incredible friendships with some of my clients and with people in the industry. And it's something that I sort of really look forward to. I always get excited if there are fellow guides, that are going to the same reserve or same park, or if I'm going to a new lodge and meeting new guides and new people in the industry, or even new guests for the first time. I think there's that sort of special bond and connection that takes place. And for me, this is also again one of my favorite photos of our ladies, Aggie and Mary in the Masai Mara. I mean, these ladies, if you've met them, they are just the sweetest people on the planet. And having our guests from all walks of life, just chat to these ladies who absolutely love what they do. They're brilliant at what they do. They've got a genuine love and care that you don't get in many places. I think that for me is really special. Wildlife aside, I think this is the best thing on safari. Also, step outside and enjoy the smaller things in life. And no, this guy is not sniffing a tree. He is actually, if you can see just at the bottom, there's like a brown patch. And that's actually where a leopard scent marked. Now, very easy to identify the smell of a leopard. It smells like popcorn. It really does. It sounds bizarre, but it smells like popcorn. And so I just got some of these guests who went on a little walk just to enjoy these smaller things. I think it is so important. We often get so stuck on photographing the big stuff, the big five and this and that and the kills and all of this. We forget about the smaller things. And I promise you, the smaller things just make up. It just opens up a whole nother world for you. Even whether it be from a photographic point of view or even just educational and experience point of view. Knowing how these small things fit into the bigger things, I think is vitally important and something we could definitely do more of. Following tracks, this is something that one of the things I probably miss most about guiding, is being on those fresh tracks and following them. And I really do feel, getting your guests involved in that experience of tracking, that feeling when you find something, it is phenomenal. It is so much better than responding to calls on the radio. And yes, again, it's not for every destination. Places like the Masai Mara and Serengeti, it is a bit harder to track. But if you go somewhere like the Sabi Sands, or a place like Tswalu, where you've got phenomenal trackers, it is incredible to see how good these guys are. It really opens up a whole new world. Remember, it is supposed to be a memorable and potentially life-changing experience. Make the most of that. And I think, once again, sorry, I just want to have a quick sip of water quickly. Again, it's these sort of the last few months, as I promise you, it's made us realize just how spoiled I think we've been, and how we've taken traveling and safaris for granted, because you could spend 150, 160 days each year, and it becomes the norm. That we're definitely going to make it a priority to really soak up those small moments and really create those life-changing experiences. I think it is so important, and 100%. It's can't wait for that to go ahead. All right, I'm just going to see if there's any more questions. That's about it from my side. It's a lot of these past few webinars have been inspired by sort of feelings of wanting to travel and getting back in there over the past few weeks. So coming forward, in the next couple of weeks, it'll be a lot more, again, photographic tuition kind of things, and it's just assisting you guys from a photography point of view, and also from an editing point of view. The term says, great presentation again, reinforces the need to book and travel with a reputable company like Wildeye for all the reasons you have highlighted. Tim, thank you so much. That really means the world, and thank you so much for taking the time and joining us on the webinars. We really appreciate it. Helena says, I always shy away from authentic native experiences. When advertised, as they often feel exploitive. But I'm interested in learning more about the people who live and work in the areas I visit. Any advice on how to do this in a way that doesn't feel icky? Elena, that's a fantastic point, and I totally agree with you. I think a lot of the places has taken advantage of these people. I think the best ones would be to do research, and I think the best ones that I've been with are the ones where you don't sort of arrive and you get straight into photographing them, because that for me immediately is not authentic. You're not going to like it if a random person comes to you, parks his vehicle, takes his camera out and shoves it in your face. You're probably going to punch him in the nose, right? So that's the same thing for these guys. I prefer the experiences where you arrive and you spend a day or two with them. You build those relationships with those people. And then, if they feel comfortable, and if you feel comfortable that you've made that connection with those people, then you photograph them. And I think then your images are going to be stronger. They're going to tell a better story. But, a lot of it, and I think Ethiopia, I haven't been there, but, speaking to Andrew Dankwith and that experience that they had, there are some people who just literally arrive there, pick up the camera, right up in their faces and photograph away. And that is not on. So what they did is, they spend a few hours. It's very much a time thing, but I do think, as a minimum, spend a few hours with them, and like before you photograph them. That's why I think, our camp in the Masai Mara works so well. Is we do 6 nights there, and it's usually by the sort of 5th, or maybe even the last night, the 6th night, where people then start taking photos of our staff, of Dixon, of Tenke, of Mary, everyone around the fire. It's a beautiful scene, beautiful colors that they wear. Then it becomes non-obtrusive, because you've gained that trust over at least sort of a couple of days. I think that would be that would be my answer to that, Helena. I hope that makes sense. Tracy, thank you so much. Makes me want to be there even more. 100% Tracy, I hear you 100%. But it's going to happen. I think there's a lot of positive things coming out over the last couple of weeks. And, pretty soon, I'm sure, at least sort of by 2021, by I think February, March, April, it looks like things will be back to probably the new semi-normal. All right. That's it from my side. If there's no further questions, then I'm going to log off. So, yeah, once again, thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. I hope you guys have been enjoying the webinars. There's a few more coming up. And if you have any questions, please feel free to hit me up either on my email, johan@wildeye.co.za, or on Instagram. If you guys have seen, last week we started the relaunch of the wildlife photography Q&A. So I look forward. I would love to get questions from you guys. The more questions you guys send, the easier our lives become. So Jerry and I are going to be co-hosting it. We're going to be splitting up 1 week each. So I'll be doing this week's episode. So yeah, please, if you guys have any questions, anything I can answer for you, please give me a shout. But that's it from me. Until next time, have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll catch up soon. Cheers for now.